Hey guys, welcome back to another Realty AF show. I'm Jason Smith with Realty AF Coaching, and I have a very special guest today, the one and only Mrs. Smith. I'm Mr. Smith, and this is my lovely bride, Mrs. Smith. And we're going to dig in today on how to survive working with your spouse. And we have 100% success rate in getting through a lot of shit. We've struggled and have had massive failure. We've also had many successes, and if we can provide any nuggets today to help you guys, if you're working with your spouse, how to not kill each other, hopefully we can be of value today. So so many of you guys have seen us banter back and forth on social media, so we expect to have a little fun today as well, and dig right in. What do you think? Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to add is we're definitely not perfect at it. We don't do it all right, especially not all the time. Sometimes we knock it out of the park. Sometimes we fail miserably, but I guess if we can share a little bit of the in-between, maybe everybody else can find a little bit in between.
Yeah. So we got a few talking points today. So we've definitely figured a lot of things out. And probably the biggest thing for me, and for her, but mostly for me.
Yeah, you do it way more.
So like my background, so I originally had the real estate team in Northern New York, and my wife, Sarah, started in the mortgage industry prior to that, before she partnered up with our team. So I've always been the boss. I've always been the team leader. Guess what? We're both very dominant personalities, and you are not going to tell this woman anything to do, and she's not going to tell me what to do. And
you can be the boss. You just can't be my boss.
Right.
You could be anybody else's boss, just not mine. You're not my boss.
So, and that goes, not just in business, but obviously in our marriage, our personal lives. And, the word I want to use is you can't, especially with me being a coach now, you cannot coach your wife or your spouse in a sense. So that goes pretty deep. So obviously we've done fitness challenges, and she's had coaches basically tell her everything I've always said, but she don't listen to me because I'm not.
They say it so much nicer, though. I don't like the way you say it.
And the same thing, obviously, running a real estate team. There's a certain things that obviously, trying to be the boss and trying to boss her around, and it just doesn't work. And we've really had to learn how to create a divide and accomplish the same goal. Basically, we're all in the same direction. And for me to learn how to empower her and get the hell out of her way. And the same token, she needs to do that same thing for me. Obviously, work and row in the same direction, but I'm not stepping on her toes, and she's not stepping on mine. And that's probably been our biggest challenge, really, right? And so that can be quite the pain in the ass. And I move really fast. We have always had this kind of joke, like I drive the bus and go really, really fast. She makes me stop and change the oil, rotate the tires. Problem is I'll drive the bus if there's, a couple low tires or whatever. So
he'll run out of gas too.
Yes, you do, babe. You too. And I think I'm middle of Public Square, actually, in Watertown.
One time. And I didn't put yours on Facebook, but you've done it 3 times since my one time.
Anyways, so what
everybody knows now.
So what's your take on
that? So yeah, no, that's definitely true. And it's not that your spouse doesn't value your opinion. It's not that your spouse doesn't think you know what you're talking about. It really has nothing to do with that. At the end of the day, you are business partners, and you almost have to be business partners as if you're not husband and wife. And we say that because what happens is you'll get angry with each other about something that's work related. It has nothing to do with the 4 walls inside your house in theory. And then you bring it home, and it's just not really a good situation. And there's also some tact to it. There are some coaching points in your life. There will always be coaching points in your life, but it's really better to let a third party handle those. It's no different than if Jason was a therapist. He certainly should not be my therapist, not like in a professional manner anyway, right? So it just kind of works better. It's not necessarily that I don't value his opinion, but there's a way to say it. And then if you're talking about work all the time and trying to coach on work all the time, and then you're getting upset about business things that have nothing to do with your home, then you're bringing that home, it just like prolongs something that could be a 10-minute conversation. It's just really not necessary.
Yeah, and there's things that, we all need to learn our own way of doing them, whether I'm saying, hey, you need to do this social media strategy, or hey, try this diet plan. This is what my coach says. This should work for you. And the reality is, whether it does or not, your spouse, like, we're husband and wife. We're each other's best friend and lovers, and so on and so forth. There's a divide there between, like she said, business partners and husband and wife. So that becomes challenging. I think we've tried firing each other, probably more me firing her than her firing me. But there's certainly been some roadblocks along the way, and but with any resilience, there's calluses that get created, and certainly some massive learning experiences.
Lessons. I was going to say, there's always lessons. You always learn with everything that you do, and there's always more to learn.
So another talking point. You've often maybe heard me say, or people often talk about work-life balance. And
balance is bullshit.
Correct.
Doesn't exist.
Yep.
It's prioritizing priorities
right
on a regular basis, and they are able to change every day.
Yep.
Minus the main priorities and being present in what you're doing.
Yep. So, like, for an example, some of you may have seen me recently posting about being up at 3 a.m. People are like, "Are you fucking nuts? Like, why would you get up that early?" And it's a relatively new thing I've done in the past, and it's easy to get out of sync of that stuff. So it's something that we're making a priority of. Why are we doing that? Well, obviously, I'd prefer not to have to get up at 3 a.m. But if I get up at 3 a.m. and go to the gym, I'm able to go with a gym partner, which helps me, helps him. Plus, I'm able to get back with ample time for my wife to also go to the gym. And for us to, so by doing that, we're putting ourselves as the priority. Our health and wellness is our priority in order to create the foundation we want for our family. Does it make sense? And obviously, that just keeps rolling into our whole business and personal lives and family. So,
I don't get up at 3:30. I get up at 5:30.
You get up at 3:30 today because our daughter, savage that she is, just like you, dear.
Actually, I'm not tired. I feel fine. But
good.
Still not my choice hour.
But that's an example. So another example, like, we have to be very cautious, not cautious, very, very mindful to make sure that we have personal time. We're husband and wife. It's easy to just talk business all day and never stop talking about it. And it drives her nuts. It drives me nuts. And you have to make the time to, whether you're doing a lunch date or a dinner date or whatever. And it's
just a scheduled meeting.
Right.
If you were business partners, you would not be on a date with them. I mean, not typically anyway.
Right.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah. So, and then obviously if we're going for some wine or drinks or whatever, apps or whatever it may be, we're there for each other and we're being intentional. Our phone should be away. I get yelled at, she gets yelled at. I understand it's a difficult thing, but for the most part, you need to be all in with what you're doing and be intentional with that act. So trying to balance, oh, geez, I got a call coming in. No, you're at your date. If you're scheduled to be at your date from 7 to 10 p.m., so she should be doing. So it's a priority that you need to set. And trust me, I know we both oftentimes suck at it. Like, it's hard. It's a job, right? But throw the word balance out, and priority is what it should be. So
priority.
Yeah. What, any other priorities?
If you were at the dentist, you're not going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
So you definitely shouldn't on a date.
Right.
It should be the same thing. Set it up like an appointment.
Yep. It kind of goes with, like, if you don't define your calendar, somebody else will. And, so those certain things, not only just for each other and our children, but, just having peace of mind to be able to be in control of your own life. So it's very easy to allow other people to influence and infiltrate your time, and your time obviously is your most precious asset, right? So you need to protect that. So balance is bullshit. Priorities. So, I think the other piece too, obviously being husband and wife with children, we have 4 children, and they're all very similar in age. So those of you that have children, it's a difficult thing to juggle. There's times where, I may have to cut my day short, or she may have to, whatever. And again, that's the priority, right? Like, so you have to be very conscious of each other's time, and we have to be very conscious of what's on our schedule. So like today, we're both on a webinar. Well, guess what? Who's watching the kids? Well, somebody else has to be, right? So, we have to be conscious of those things, and just respecting each other's time. It's a lot of the reasons why, like I said, why I get up early at the gym is to be able to make sure we both are able to facilitate the things that we need to have in our lives. So,
To stay sane and
yeah,
be present and fulfill your basic needs, right? Those are pretty basic needs.
sure.
But
So, but obviously all the foundation of things. So, what else? Anything else on that? Priorities?
No.
No other priorities? Kind of with all that being said, so like, and we touched on some of these pieces, it's very easy to bring business into your home. What do I mean by that? Whether it's a disgruntled client,
bad review,
yeah,
bad
Which
home
happens.
inspection, low appraisal.
yeah,
There's all kinds of things, right?
an employee matter that you're dealing with, obviously financial things, any challenges you go through, maybe you just had a deal go dead, whatever. It's easy to not leave it at the doorstep and bring it into the home and talk about it nonstop and completely change the dynamic of your entire household, right?
Mhm.
And we both
Which
been
makes you live it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5
Yep.
times, which is super unhealthy. But
and it creates a pretty negative dynamic. And there's times where you bring that emotion into the house and it derails everything. And you'll hear us, and we've posted about it, like protecting your 4 walls. So through building our business and going up and down and having struggles throughout time, we've allowed that to impact our home and our marriage and our children, and it affects everything. And
Mhm.
you can't do that. The most important thing is obviously your family and us, our marriage, and it's very easy to allow people in, and there's going to be a lot of, you have some successes, you're posting on social media, whether it's a positive or a negative, and you're going to have a lot of outside scrutiny from whatever it may be. And it's easy to allow that in, and you just simply can't. You have to basically sever any emotions in regards to that. And it's just business. Earlier today, I posted about, do you have stoicism in your business? And basically what that means is your mindset. And trust me, this is not an easy thing. And I talk to people all the time that really get razzled about the smallest, slightest thing in your business. And in business, as we both know, it's a daily kick in the ass every day. It does not go away. And it's more of how we as individuals and husband and wife, business partners, tend to deal with it. And the more things we deal with, the more resilience that we get. And if you're practicing stoicism, in a sense, you become numb to it. And I hate the word numb, but almost emotionless. But you have to, because it's business at the end of the day.
Mhm. Emotion has no place in business.
Yep. So, that is something we're going to talk about next Wednesday, actually, with my personal coach and mentor. He's one of the group experts with Realty F, James Childress. He's been very impactful on both Sarah and I's live. In fact, he's been very influential on the things that we're talking about today, and recognizing we cannot coach each other, recognizing that there needs to be firm boundaries between business and personal, and protecting our 4 walls, priorities versus balance, and quite frankly, being on the same page, which for a lot of times we probably haven't been.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
Well, and I think sometimes we have been and we didn't know we were.
Right.
Because the separation of business and personal was always like not separated.
Yep.
So it was always at home. It was always at the office. It was always on date nights. It was always everywhere. And like something could happen and we would literally allow it to mess up an entire week, which is awful. But
Yeah.
and not to say that those things don't still happen. Like obviously you're entitled to have emotions about things, but you need to just suck it up, move on.
Right. So, a lot of that goes back to the empowerment statement. So like I can vulnerably state that I've been a pain in the ass at times to Sarah, in the sense of I'm used to
Not
running
as
things
much.
how I want to run things, and right, wrong, or indifferent. And some of that just doesn't work for her. She's not me. She's not the same personality type. However, we're very alpha. You can't have 2 chiefs in one room, in a sense. So like what we've found, and I know some other spouses have found this too, sometimes, like she said, you're on the same page, but you think you're not, or vice versa, right? But in order to,
or you're talking about the exact same thing, but in your own language.
Right.
And this mofo doesn't understand what you're talking about. And then he says it and you're like, that's what I said. No, it's not. Okay, whatever.
anyways,
Oh, we're talking in general terms.
right.
Right.
Yeah. Let's not get into technicalities.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but there's just been times where you can be rowing. You could have two separate boats, and as long as you're rowing downriver in the same direction and the destination is the same, that's fine.
Yeah.
So in our case,
also not poking holes in each other's boat.
Right, unintentionally. Maybe sometimes intentionally, but
maybe you. Speak for yourself. I don't know what you're talking about.
So what I mean by that is like, she has her own strengths and weaknesses, just like I have my own strengths and weaknesses, and it's up to me to empower those strengths and allow her to seek that path upriver, right? And the same thing for me. And we've had to figure out what roles make sense for me, what roles make sense for her to go in the same direction. We don't have to show like I'm not her boss, she's not my boss, but yet we're still looking to accomplish the same goal. And I think that's very, very important in any business. So, like, I think there's certain things that, and I think this goes with any leadership at all. Obviously, we're talking about, our spouses in this situation, but like, I am not her, she's not me. It's not even personality types. It's not even the fact that it's my wife. It's just we're not the same person. And just like any person that may be a part of an organization, finding out what their strengths are, empowering those strengths, and embracing their weaknesses as well, and trying to lift those up is obviously very important. And through time, we've had to figure that out. And some of it's been through having very challenging conversations, personal conversations, to figure out really where we stand, what we just simply do or don't want to do. Communication is key in any relationship, of course. And that's certainly
comprehension too.
In comprehension, of course. So
that's probably more important than communication, because you can talk all you want, but if you're not making sure the person you're speaking to is understanding you, or you're not making an effort to understand what they're really truly saying to you, then communication is actually not even going to help you.
Yeah, it's like the movie White Man Can't Jump when they got Jimi Hendrix on, and Wesley Snipes says, "You might be listening to Jimmy, but you're not hearing Jimmy."
Right.
Great movie, by the way.
Yeah, I don't remember that part. But.
I do. Yeah, it's just speaking the right language and stuff. So like, her needs are different than mine, and understanding all those things. And it goes so much further. So like, like our love languages are much different. Like that affects our business. So like hers is quality time. Mine's affirmation. I'm not going to get any attaboys if I don't get in your quality time. Well, if we're talking about business and we're not making priorities for ourselves and things like that, guess what? It's going to affect your life and your marriage, and that's not cool. So, those things are very important. And I think
my number one is actually acts of service now. So you should probably do the dishes more. Just saying.
I did them like last week.
Mm-hmm. A week ago.
Yeah. Anyways, so
keep going. Got to keep it interesting.
I'm still waiting for the affirmation.
Can't keep talking about all the boring stuff.
What else on that? Being on the same page, communication.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that I really just added or wanted to add was the comprehension piece. And that kind of plays into the love languages as well. But, you're not probably always going to speak somebody's language, and that's okay. But you definitely, if you have something important to relay, you definitely should make sure they understand you.
Yeah, and I think what the other addition to that is, and we've had to do this, is like, for us, she'll talk to me and like she'll say it to me, and I'll be like, "You never told me that," because I'm moving so fast. So that's where the comprehension sometimes comes in. Either I don't understand, but most of the time I'm just moving so fast. I'm not actually taking the time to slow down to listen. So what happens is she may stop telling me. Guess what? You can't do that, right? Which forces us to slow down, have a business meeting, business conversation of, hey, this is where we're at finances. Hey, this is where we're at with this. This is where we're at with that. and having the tough conversations and not avoiding those conversations. So, and not just business, but obviously in our marriage too. And we certainly have evolved with all those things. And not to go down that rabbit hole, but I think those things are important. You know, a lot of relationships lack communication. They're not having the hard conversation. People live what we call a faff life, fake AF, if you can figure out what I'm talking about. And by us, having a lot of those conversations, it just puts you back. It puts you more on the same page. Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What else you got to add?
You still have to have a constant reminder to remember to do that, though, because it's really easy to not say it twice, I guess, or not slow down and make sure that you understand.
Right, but we're both responsible for that, right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
So
well, right.
If I'm not hearing you, I need to say, "Can you repeat that? I don't understand." Versus, "Okay, we're good." And then
say, "Listen, I'm freaking talking to you. Can you stop what you're doing?" Which is what happens now. He said, "You have to have a bigger voice." Okay. Oh, you shouldn't be so loud now. Too bad. Too late.
Oh, anyways. Yeah. What else? You were gonna say something?
No.
We have a bigger voice, so you had something to say.
I just got done
talking. Nothing to say?
No. Yeah.
But I mean, that actually touches on a point. So, for us, some of the transition, I've always been the front man of the brand, or the person of the team. And when we moved to Florida, we rebranded ourselves as the Real Estate Smiths team. And what was important to her is to make sure we had equal, I don't know, for lack of a better word, but visibility. And obviously I want to empower her to have a larger voice, because I easily, on these, can take over the whole show, or, and, we don't want to do that. And because that can make her or your spouse feel as if, they're not valued or whatever. And it's important to make sure we all have a platform to speak, I guess. Right. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Some of that stuff went away when you worked on your ego, though. You don't like to hear yourself talk quite as much as you used to.
Would you say ego? Is that what you said? I didn't hear you. Ego? What do you mean, ego?
When you worked on it, because you got better. So,
Yeah,
anyone who knows you knows.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's really big transition with that.
Yeah, for sure. And and we can talk on that for a second. So a lot of people don't understand this. So a lot of people think ego means you're an arrogant asshole, basically, and you're a know-it-all, and you think you're better and better. But actually, what egos mostly stem from is insecurities, and you get projection in there and all that stuff. So she's right, actually. So some of the challenging things, or either maybe I didn't want to listen, or I'm coaching, or I'm trying to be the boss. A lot of that's an ego play, and it goes both ways. But yeah,
more you.
Yeah.
I was quiet. Remember, you were louder.
You got the RBF though.
I know. I don't even know how to change it. I'm probably not going to be able to ever.
So mean.
It's fine.
So intimidating.
I'm over it. I'm not, though. I'm one of the nicest people ever. Way nicer than you.
You get past the front gate.
It's not that hard.
Oh man. Anyways, what else are we talking about? What else can we tell you not to suck at?
I don't know. Those are the big ones. I mean, I'm sure that there's more within those things, but that's really the big.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just having a clear divide on what, you're working with your husband or you're working with your wife. What are you doing and what am I doing? Let's say a contracting business. A lot of times, maybe the guy's the one swinging the hammer, doing the manual labor, and your wife is your business partner that does the accounting, the books, and things like that, right? I think that's probably the stereotypical model, that's a straightforward divide, right? Where with us, and I think in real estate, obviously this platform is more geared towards real estate. We're in the same business, but there's different ways to go about it, right? And I think that's the piece, is defining what your role is. I'm more marketing, more showman, more branding.
Well, and your role should be based on your strengths, and then frankly, what you enjoy doing. Right. I mean, what's the point of having a team? What's the point of working together if you always get stuck with the crap? or if you're being forced to do things that you don't like to do or you don't enjoy doing, like the other person should almost have your back with those things. And that if that is their strengths, those are the things they should be doing. And then like, you know, when we're ever in transition periods or whatever, and like if we don't have a transaction coordinator or whatever, like he's never going to do that stuff. And I don't care spending 5 minutes to make sure that we have compliant files. Like to me, it's like, what's the big deal, dude? You can just do it in 5 minutes. But you know, some of that stuff we learn along the way that like,
yeah, there's certain things I'm just not going to do.
It's just not you, unless it's something you like, and then whatever. But
yeah, and I'm going to give a little shout out to women in general. Obviously, in this case, you know, I work with my wife, so you know, I'm speaking to you and speaking to any other women watching today or will watch the replay. So like she just said, like you guys have to do shit that you don't want to do every day that obviously we suck at helping with at times. Obviously I got reminded of some of that just now. You know, the dishes, the laundry, doting on kids, you know, like I could be standing there, I'd be invisible. And, you know, if you think they'd ask me to help them with a drink, no, they asked mom. So, you know, so obviously in business, if she's also doing shit that's not really ideal, what kind of result you're thinking you're gonna get out of that?
Shit in, shit out.
Exactly. So, you know, those things are very important. And yeah, I think that out of all this, the biggest takeaway is defining what roles make sense for you and doing them and executing them and developing mastery in them and empowering each other.
And boundaries and being okay with saying, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
Or no, you are going to help with that actually, because we don't have someone to do that right now. And it's not going to just be my responsibility.
Yep.
And it's okay because that's not at home. That's at the office.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that reminds me of one thing.
Okay.
So like I'm a very dominant personality and although she is too, I trump her on some stuff. So like, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Hey, can you do that? And she always used to say yes. So to me, it's yes. It's very black and white as the personality. Problem is oftentimes yes, not, I guess. And then I'm actually setting her up for failure because the reality is you're completely overloading. You're completely overworking her or him if it's the other way around. And what do you think's gonna happen? Like then you're just gonna get more upset, which is where communication comes in and just, again, being on the same page and just defining all that stuff. Like I can't stress that enough.
Well, and I'll admit, like I've let that stuff snuff me out before.
Yeah.
Like to where I can't actually function as a wife and a mom anymore because the workload got so large and it was more than I could handle. And he would be very dominant in those things. And he was used to like having everybody do everything for him. And like, if we don't have those, it just was always expected it was going to be me. And like, I never wanted to say no, but like, you know, that was probably like a really big lesson for me in just saying, no, I'm not going to do that. No, you can do that. You can make that phone call, or no, I don't have time for that. Or, and it took me a really long time to do that. And I still struggle with it on some things. Like, you know, you'll let.
Well, what happens is it creates that's a compound effect. If you keep saying yes to things, like it just keeps, you know,
right. And that's when it starts to be brought home. Yeah.
And then it's like,
and then you're like,
you're stressed out. You're not present at home, obviously, which is where it affects things in general. And that's
right.
Not
because
okay.
You're supposed to be doing family things or whatever. Right. And you're thinking about all of the things that you're supposed to be doing and you're not present. And I think we've both been guilty of that, but I probably carry more of those stress loads than you in this juncture.
Well, I think women in general, as wives and mothers, carry more stress to begin with. I think we oftentimes take for granted the ratio of stresses. You know, men have different stresses. Obviously, women have different ones, but I think women as a whole carry more of the burden of certain things, or to stress out more about things maybe than men do per se. But you know, so we got to be mindful of that stuff. So, and I suck at that. Probably most men do, to be mindful of those things as you know, working again with your spouse. So
yeah, and the really interesting dynamic with us is that my like core is actually not super feminine. Like I am a feminine woman, but like some of the things that tick for me and work for me or don't work for me, or some of the ways to speak to me is really how you would speak to a man. So like,
so it works sometimes, but
so it works sometimes, right? And then sometimes it's just amplified because I'm not necessarily going to be good at those things either. I'm not necessarily going to be good, not worried about asking you how you felt today or whatever. Like if I've got a workload or I've got things to do or I'm trying to be present.
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's not like cold though. It's just stuff that I don't. It's not that I don't care. Just like emotions aren't number one for me. So, and they probably never will be. And that's okay. But you have to learn how to navigate that. So.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing is like I said, you see some of our bantering back and forth. We're very sarcastic. We're ball busters, sometimes more her than me at times. And I think it's important to have fun because this business can be shitty sometimes. It can suck, and it's work, it's business, and it's kicks in the balls and the butt all the time. And it's important to have fun and have a good time, which is where the priorities come in, and making sure you're being present for each other and just being who you are and being real. And it's easy to lose your identity through business. I know I have at times, and you have too.
Mm-hmm.
And just being who the hell you are and not being afraid to put it all out there. We are who we are, and we have probably sometimes dark humor. Sarah could probably show you 20 ways to kill somebody without getting away with it because she's watched so many serial killer documentaries.
You said without getting away.
That's what I mean. With getting, excuse me. That's the no.
Details.
Yeah. So, it's important to have fun and have a good time and just be your damn self. So I can't stress that enough for sure. And, and then obviously, we've talked about some of the challenges and some of the things that we've sucked at and just obviously touched on, having fun and bantering and just being who you are.
What do you think your biggest challenge? And I'm going to interrupt you, so get over it.
Shocker.
You're starting to.
My biggest challenge, you being late.
Yours. We're not talking about me. We're talking about you. What is your? So in here, in this, I work with my spouse. I'm a real estate person, coach, whatever. What is your biggest struggle? Do you think? One of them. No, one of them.
I mean, I think the coaching thing is always going to be a challenge, just because.
But as a person, not just as it relates to me. So, like, take working with your spouse.
It's that whole comprehension thing,
right? Well, I'm asking this question a different way. Let's see if we get a different answer, guys.
What are you, a lawyer?
Anyway.
Could you please repeat the question?
What I meant was taking all of these things into consideration, because probably most of the people on some level that are watching or going to watch at some point are in a professional setting. They may or may not work with their spouse, and that's not really the relevant part, but just being in the type of industry that we're in, which makes it more difficult to remember to prioritize yourself and do like any of your priorities, your family, your house, your balance, which is bullshit, but your scheduling, right, is really what that is. What is one of your biggest struggles, do you think?
I think
with all of that.
Honestly, I think setting priorities, really, I think it's hard. I think it's just easy to get off. It's easy to get off track with taking care of yourself. I certainly went through a phase where I didn't, and that's for another show, but certainly had some impacts on our home and personally. And I know just the basic stuff, I don't want to speak for you, but getting your hair done, the nails done, and just the basic simple needs. And when you let that kind of go, and I think that impacts us. Those
are things you enjoy.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing
should be doing those things too.
Is when you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, are you happy with yourself? Because if you're not, none of this matters. Working with your spouse, business, nothing. So I think prioritizing.
Well, if
almost
you're not,
being selfish
you should be
in a
working
sense,
towards that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the piece. I think the coaching thing was probably prior to that, but to me, I think probably the priorities thing, priorities versus the balance, I think is probably my challenge still today. I just stated that, I just started again with a gym partner and getting up very early in the morning. Obviously it takes discipline to continue to do that. If it's a priority, I will, right? So
commitment probably more so than discipline.
Well, I mean, it's
you have to be committed to yourself. It's both.
Yeah, for sure. So, I actually made a post the other day about like your health and your business and your marriage is not a finite game. It's an infinite game. It means it takes work nonstop. If you want to be healthy, you need to be healthy your whole life, not just, hey, I'm going to be healthy for a week, or, hey, we're going to have a great week of marriage. No, it's work every goddamn day. We just had our anniversary the 1st of April. True story. It's not
April
a
Fool's Day.
joke.
Yeah.
And like
Oh.
I said, like being married is the hardest job. I was told that like being married is gonna be the hardest job you've ever had, and it's true. It takes hard work, and we have gone through some shit, and we've done some dumbass shit, and had lots of tears and lots of joy and babies and all these things, and we've evolved. And there's times where marriage is pretty ugly, and you're wondering what you should be doing or not. And at the end of the day, if you're committed to each other and you're wanting to work through all these things, you're going to evolve together, or you're not. And fortunately, we have, and it's been great. That's the beauty of all this. Not only do you get to share all these things with your spouse, but you get to grow with your spouse. You get to see your kids grow up if you have children. And, I think the journey of evolving is cool. Your story isn't finished yet. It's just not until you're 6 feet under, right? And I think that's pretty cool. Some of it sucked, but it's been worth it, I guess. I think anything worth having is going to be hard. And working with your spouse, being married is tough to begin with, and working with your spouse is even more challenging. So, but in order to do it, you got to set priorities. So I think that's mine. What's yours?
One of my most difficult things.
Yeah.
So I think that, and it may have always been an issue, but it's not something that I was coached on previously. So I didn't identify it previously. But for me, if somebody says, name 5 things that are great about you, my answer always used to be my roles, which doesn't actually have anything to do with me. So the fact that I was a realtor and a wife and a mother, like that is not the answer. And that's probably was like one of the biggest things for me to be coached on. And I do sometimes forget these things. And I think it goes back to setting priorities and like taking care of yourself and being a little bit selfish with things. And that's okay. But, you should be able to answer that question without labeling any of your roles, because your roles are actually not the definitions of who you are. It doesn't have anything to do with your characteristics, personality, your integrity, like anything, your core
Those
values.
things aren't your values. Like the value that you can give, the role is the vehicle in a sense, right? So like for me as a coach, or for an example, as a coach, like my value is my experiences and challenges and my angles of things and perspective of things. Obviously, my role as a coach, I'm a great coach. Okay, well, why, right? Same thing for you. And that's where the empowering comes in. And I can say that there's been times where I probably haven't done a great job of doing that. But it takes both of us together to work towards that. And it's easy to put yourself in a box and like devalue yourself in a sense.
Or lose your identity. So
Yeah.
for me, I wasn't devaluing myself. I was unclear of like
The value
my
you had.
actual identity as a person.
Yeah.
And then the value was like secondary, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. And I have a ways to go on that. Still coaching on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. What's cool about it all is we continue to evolve and as a result be first and foremost be better husband and wife to each other, and secondly parents, and obviously business partners. So
Better for me, it's a better version of myself.
Yeah.
So
which affects everything. What else?
that's all I got, bro.
That's all you got? That's it?
That's
Bro.
all I got.
Anybody made any comments, any questions?
And I'll remind you again that you're not my boss, in case you were asking.
So what are other nuances? So like any other nuances of working together? You're always around.
Well,
You're distracting.
I'm not though. You are easily distracted. I'm not distracting you. I'd prefer that you left me alone and pretended like you weren't home. So I can put my head down and like nobody exists if I'm doing something. But
We're aware.
you're not quite like that. So
Not quite.
that's
No
probably
matter.
more of a nuance for you
Yeah.
than me. And it becomes a nuance for me if you're like
Yeah.
trying to distract me.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we want to talk about? We talked about coaching. So let's summarize. So talked about you cannot coach your spouse. Don't even try. Well, have them hire somebody else to do it. Setting priorities versus balance. Balance is bullshit. Setting your priorities in your life, in your marriage, your family. making sure there's a clear divide between business and personal life. What's most important is what's in your four walls, your children, your marriage. That's it. Anything else should not infiltrate that ever and affect any business matter should never affect your personal lives. And I can tell you, if you do, you're going to wish you didn't. And then being on the same page. So as we said, rowing in the same.
Talk about work all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it gets.
Gives you plenty of that.
Yeah, for sure. And being on the same page, clear communication, comprehension. And, I have a saying, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And, setting appropriate expectations and lines in the sand, personally, because we're spouses and, obviously business-wise too. So, but again, if you define the appropriate roles, it should be pretty straightforward. You should never really cross those lines. You should never need to. You should be able to meet every so often on it and just know that things are progressing the right way. But I can't stress it enough just to be, having appropriate expectations. And that goes with any person you have in your organization. Like that's probably the biggest thing I see from my side of the fence as a coach, like talking to certain realtors that are part of teams, like they just don't even know what they are or aren't supposed to be doing. They don't know what their compensation looks like. They don't know if they were to leave the team, well, who's leads or what. And, I think in any relationship, clear expectations, communication is key. And if you don't work on that stuff, or give your spouse, which has been something too, a platform to be able to speak, to be heard. Obviously, that's a challenge too. If I snuff her out, she's not going to speak. If she doesn't speak, I'm like, what the hell? So it goes both ways, What are you laughing about?
I'm not laughing. I'm agreeing.
It's important to take the time to speak. So, like, obviously, a vulnerable thing. She obviously smiled and, hey, you can't snuff her out. You can't be overbearing with things, obviously, because she won't speak. Well, if she doesn't speak, that becomes a problem. However, on the other hand,
or I will speak, and then you really don't like it,
right?
Because it doesn't get delivered.
But obviously, what I'm trying to say with that, like in that situation, like you can't not speak. Like, so you got to have we're joking about having a larger voice. Like, you have a larger voice. So, like, if you're the person that typically is in the passenger seat, metaphorically, like, make sure you speak. Which is kind of funny. Whenever I'm driving, she's in passenger seat. She's has no problem telling me I'm too close to the guy in front of me. I'm speeding or I'm going through red lights or whatever. So,
yeah, I hate the way.
So I have a bigger voice, like you're in the passenger seat with your husband as he's driving.
I wish you had your own brake, or like a armor suit.
Right, for sure. So
scary shit.
Anyways, so yeah, so I think that kind of sums it up. Anything else?
I think so too. No,
that was fun.
Yeah.
So we're always here as a resource for anybody that ever had any questions, any advice working with their spouse. It's certainly challenging. I'm sure any of you that are doing that or looking to do it, probably getting some valuable lessons, whether you like it or not. And
well, let's talk about one thing quick, and then we can go. So a positive. So we talked about all the negatives, which I like to do. I like to talk about like the things that we suck at, so that maybe if somebody else is gonna do something similar, they maybe won't suck right off the bat, right? You can take somebody else's advice, or if you're dealing with these things and you do work with your spouse, then you know that you're not alone and it's relatable and it's not just you and whatever, because that's totally something that we figured out. Like pretty much most of the people that we've either mentored with or had conversations with, or even people that have coached us would tell us like, yep, these things are normal. You have to work through this. This is how you figure it out, whatever, because you always think oh my God, I'm the only one. I must be the only one who like can't stop talking about work and whatever. That's not the case. But the positives of it, if you do work with your spouse, is when you do have some downtime, or maybe when things are a little bit slower, which happens in real estate, or you've got everything that you needed to get done, earlier in the day or whatever, there's always some extra time that you wouldn't have had otherwise if you were somewhere 9 to 5 or if you weren't together. There's definitely extra bonding and things that go into working together that once you master the shit, or at least you just have a daily effort to be better at the shit, because it's always going to be there. you know, you can gain some really positive things and time that you normally wouldn't have, or be able to go to lunch in the middle of the day sometimes or whatever, and just things that you normally wouldn't see with your spouse. And those are good things too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a value of being self-employed, an entrepreneur in general, and obviously if you do it with your spouse, then definitely a positive thing. And then obviously the other piece too is you can make a significant amount of money too. Obviously, if you're doing things together, in our case, realtors who have a mortgage team and the coaching thing as well. So like obviously any of those things that we do together collectively obviously goes into our household versus others. So like so there's massive opportunity in working with your spouse if you're both, again, have defined roles and are empowering each other with your strengths to be able to do all that. It can be a very beautiful thing. And obviously that's kind of where the silly saying of a power couple, I believe that we are. And, and again, it's an evolution of every day. We've grown as individuals and husband and wife and as parents and obviously business partners over time. And it's pretty cool. I wouldn't do it with anybody else, dear.
You're so silly.
Yeah. Anyways, well, I think that's it, folks. So if anybody ever had any questions on any of this stuff, message her, not me. She's just kidding. But no, really.
Most likely they will. Just kidding.
Really, obviously, if anybody want any guidance on any, hey, how do you handle a situation? Obviously, certainly shoot me a text or shoot me a DM on social media or whatever. We're pretty visible. And then of course, what we, as you know, we offer coaching, customized coaching, have a few programs, 100 days to 100K, our 60-day Kickstart program, lead generation programs, pretty customizable in anybody's situation, whether you're new, seasoned agent, looking to grow a team, what have you. We're available to consult on that. You can book a time. You can go to our page on Realty AF and hop on our Calendly link and schedule time. In fact, I'll put our link in the comments once we're done here. And I think that's it today, folks. So stay tuned. Actually, in just over an hour, I'm going to be doing another webinar on how to dominate your market. Something I'm very proud of, something that's what I'm very passionate about, building brands and creating mind share and things of that nature. We're gonna present on some of the tactics that I use to grow our team in Northern New York that we did some things together on and had a lot of fun doing it too. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be on at 1 p.m. and I look forward to seeing some of you guys on that too. Anyways, I think that's it, dear.
Bye.
All righty. We'll see you.